Emanuel shared that he has known Lively and Reynolds for over a decade and called them really incredible people. They've never had any bad mojo out there or treated people badly, Emanuel said. He added, if all that Lively's lawsuit alleges, including Baldoni sexually harassing her on set and fueling a retaliatory public smear campaign to destroy her reputation, is true, then those involved are really bad people. Speaking of Lively and Reynolds, he said, these are good people who have been in the business for decades, have never had any bad press about them, and all the people they've worked with like them.
Shut the fuck up!
Blake Lively has set the world record for self-snitching, and that was a difficult feat because she had stiff competition in the form of Andrew Tate.
And then there are other moments to go like, am I the asshole in the room? When I would show up on a set, I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. And so it was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just be an actor.
That is Blake Lively admitting to not only being a deceptive, habitual hijacker of films, but also copping to the fact that she was fully aware that she had made some directors uncomfortable when she did it, and admitting that she loves overstepping and demanding creative control that was not allocated to her in contract negotiations. And even in Justin's movie, she demanded a producer credit at the onset and was denied. She was instead granted an executive producer and name-only credit to reflect her celebrity stature, and that was about it. But she was not content with that and devised a plan to extort her way into more power. By the way, this is yet more proof that her extortion and hijacking of the film was premeditated, and that this is a habit of hers. So this was not about a failed romance with Justin Baldoni. It was a premeditated scheme to steal his movie, and that's what I've been saying, and I said it in my last video. The SH allegations were just her chosen vehicle where she could take over the movie with impunity and have a scapegoat in case her criminal on-set behavior was ever publicized. I have a novel idea. Why not put all of that energy into becoming a legit filmmaker or producer or screenwriter? Oh yeah, because she has no actual talent or vision or creative integrity, nor a single original thought. She doesn't have the merits to carry this sort of work through to success on her own. But like a grandiose narcissist would, she still wants the glory for herself. She is a plagiarist, a hack, a charlatan. She wants to sign up for projects with competent people on board as just an actress, and then after they've done the hard work, especially securing the rights to a film and creating a workable and compelling script or a score or the fundamental aspects of filmmaking like translating difficult concepts from script to screen, she then wants to come along, change a few things to her liking, sprinkle a little fairy dust atop, and then tell people in interviews she did all the work behind the scenes. My God, she is a joke. Something that's incredibly important to keep in mind about Blake's allegations of sexual harassment on the set of It Ends With Us, apart from the aforementioned, is that she only filmed for 16 days on set before the strikes began and before she claimed sexual harassment, then required them to sign that duplicitous protections to return to work document with the 17 provisions. That's 16 freaking days, following which she cooked up a bunch of lies and distortions to extort her way into full control over this movie. 16 days during which the majority of the cast had been vocal about how great their set experience was and how safe and comfortable the set was and what great guys Justin and Heath were. 16 days throughout which Blake never stopped being friendly with Justin, never stopped inviting him into her trailer while she pumped her breast, never stopped inviting him to her home to be around her children, never stopped texting him late at night, never stopped telling him how terrific he was, never stopped being proud of the work they did every day, never stopped voluntarily getting him coffee without his asking, and never stopped wishing him pleasantries like "have a nice summer," which she said to him after she left for the strikes. So after everything had went down. This was all factually the case with a woman who claims that the man in question sexually harassed her and made her feel uncomfortable, ogled, and exposed within that short 16-day filming period. I don't know about you, but something about this crunched timeline doesn't smell right. Also, there is no question of why any of these cast members turned on Justin at the drop of a hat and uncritically supported Blake's lies and narrative, since we know that Blake is in the habit of subtly and sometimes not so subtly threatening people into seeing things her way, just like she did with Justin when he dared to oppose her in any way. And this man was an experienced filmmaker and actor. Even he fell for her threats and manipulations early on. Therefore, it would require a great deal less to make these fledgling, new, and up-and-coming cast members to side with Blake in this situation, since Blake is the bigger star, so is her husband, and she also throws around the weight of her friends like Taylor freaking Swift whenever she can. She also used the book author's influence to threaten the distributor, Sony, into using her cut of the film instead of the director's cut, which is pure insanity, pure cowardice from so many people involved in this situation, including Sony. The young actress named Isabela is probably the only one I sympathize with in this situation, because unlike the other members of the cast, this was literally her first movie, and she seems genuinely sweet and well-meaning. So she was particularly vulnerable when it came to navigating Hollywood deceptions and the palm greasing and the many shady figures who had a hand in the hostile takeover of this film. She was totally defenseless when faced with Blake's psychotic machinations to disgrace the film's director and the studio's CEO by virtue of fake Me Too complaints. And as text message and other documentary evidence illustrates, Isabela was practically in love with Justin before Blake got to her with her lies and manipulations. It's important to note this girl did not know Blake during the filming of the movie. She only met her afterwards during the press tour, and that's when Blake manipulated her into shunning Justin like she did the rest of the cast. Suddenly, she's dressing this girl for the red carpet in clunky, hideously paired accessories and her own personal shoes, which is creepy, and her favorite fashion designer for the dress. She treated her like her own personal mini-me when the girl was hired to play Lily Bloom, not Blake Lively. By the way, speaking of that, this question and the answer was so incredibly awkward. You could just feel the awkward in the room when the girl basically has to set the interviewer in her place and say she did not get hired to play Blake, she was hired to play Lily Bloom.
And Isabella, I have to ask, how does it feel to be cast as a young Blake Lively?
I mean, it's wild, you know. I mean, not only Blake Lively. I mean, you're phenomenal, but also to be a young Lily.
I was like, I feel like that is a disservice too, because she's in the movie. She's not doing me. She's bringing herself to the role as a young Lily. And I think that there's a key difference in that, because like I think if she would have come in and tried to do me, it would have been like a Saturday Night Live situation, which is wonderful in a time and place for Saturday Night Live, but this is not that. And she really like studied Lily and brought Lily to the table, and I studied Lily and brought Lily to the table, and
then we came together and went, that's this.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
yeah.
It's just so funny. Blake is so full of herself. And Blake was speaking over this young woman in interviews so much and would hardly let her get a word in edgewise, which is just a form of control, by the way, to make sure Isabela didn't say anything Blake didn't want her to say, or that would basically divert from Blake's narrative about the set. And Blake was also being weirdly physically affectionate with her in a manner that Blake would have undoubtedly listed as sexual harassment had Justin done this to this young woman. Touching her bare thighs, that is just inappropriate. Again, and the physical touch is also just another form of manipulation from Blake. Very heavy-handed manipulation and Blake basically controlling every aspect of these interviews with this young woman. Just take a second to imagine here if Justin had been the one going around stroking the thighs of his female cast members or the book's freaking author, it would have been listed as a violation. Why is it okay if Blake does this just because she's female? The double standards between Blake and Justin are outrageous. I have never seen a case of sexual harassment carry this far in which the purported female victim is guilty of far more egregious behavior than the purported male offender on every level, not just in terms of inappropriate language and jokes like about her asshole or Ryan's taint, but also physical, non-consensual touching on camera, firing female ADs, actually fat-shaming herself in jokes about her own weight, while Justin merely made inquiries for logistical and safety reasons about a lift scene, and her being disgustingly insensitive about DV and trivializing this abuse and the survivors, while simultaneously exploiting their harrowing experiences as a vehicle for self-promotion. These are the actions of a true predator and harasser, not just a sexual predator and harasser, but also someone who is like predatory in the business sense. Everything Blake did on this production from beginning to end, with exploiting the issue of DV, with her extortion of Justin, with her premeditated hijacking of the film, with her name-dropping powerful friends and thinly veiled threats, and then manipulating the cast and ultimately gaslighting the public and the media, is by definition predatory. By all accounts, Blake Lively is the predator here, not Justin Baldoni. Side note, I love how Blake is taking this girl under her wing and showing her the ropes and pretending to be this legendary Hollywood heavyweight when her filmography consists mainly of roles like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Hick, and Gossip Girl. Anyway, Blake specifically tried to make it out that Justin was inappropriate with this girl on set, and that this girl may have even been underage in her complaint and subsequent lawsuit, when really this actress was always in her 20s, especially when she filmed the movie, and she had nothing but glowing and positive things to say about Justin after filming with him, including all of her intimate scenes. Her text to Justin says it all. She says, "Hey, 2 exclamation points. Just got my film developed from when we were shooting, so here's this sweet pic. I also have to say thank you so much for an incredible experience on my first film. I still can't shake the feeling of it all because it truly was life-changing for me. You are such a wonderful, smart, and sincere director, and you created such a comfortable, safe space for me to feel like I could fully step into this role. I couldn't have asked for a more welcoming environment. It will stay with me for the rest of my life. See you soon, whether in the fall or later, and hope you're doing well. Smiley face, kisses." That says it all. Utterly contradicts everything Blake is trying to paint about the set culture, and specifically Justin's interactions with this girl when she was filming. Then in an interview around, I believe, June 22nd, 2023, which was before her text, Isabela texts Justin that in July 2023, after she finished filming. So in June 2023, she said this. This is what she said when asked how it was working with Justin. "Oh my God, so good. So good. He's been so generous with advice and just overall in the entire process of letting me observe and really take in everything. He's really taken good care of, everybody, it seems. And I think there's a lot that's going on. And I think he has a really great method of just being able to keep things positive and find ways of uplifting and then going. And then there's also this look at that. And I feel like as an actor who's also first starting, when you're trying to get used to everything, it's really important to have someone go, "That's really good. Okay, now let's look at this." And there's no patronizing. There's no, I don't feel not heard. I always feel like I can go up to him and ask for anything. Our first phone call after I first got the job, it was a FaceTime. And the first thing he said to me was like, "Whatever you need, whenever, call me." I immediately had his number. There was an immediate understanding that literally, whatever, if I needed anything, I knew that I could reach out to him. And that was immediately such a comforting feeling that I wasn't just driving into something and not knowing what was going on. And then she also did a video interview where she discusses working closely for long hours with an intimacy coordinator, something that Blake alluded was not hired until she asked for it, which was a lie. Isabela filmed her intimate scenes before Blake and before the strike break, and there was an intimacy coordinator there the entire time, and here's her discussing that.
I mean, we had a phenomenal intimacy coordinator, Lizzie. She's worked on Bridgerton before, so she was extra careful with us at all times, but also there was just a lot of communication and check-ins and making sure how are you feeling, how's it going, and a lot of water, making sure we feel physically but also mentally well just while doing such intense scenes, because it takes a long time. It's a choreographed thing. You have to rehearse the choreography. It's like a dance, you know? Right. It's not just oh, I guess we'll do this and then it'll lead to that. Everything is so specific because it is so intimate that it can get tiring, but it was a great process, honestly, yeah. It's such a transformation, and to kind of see myself in that light is super cool. I mean, just everybody was, so cooperative on set, and it was such a comfortable environment that when I see my work, I'm I feel good about it. Yeah, it's a crazy thing to watch, though. I have to kind of be oh my god, is that what I'm seeing right now? Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or your family, watching that with your family. It's
yeah,
whoa.
Thankfully they keep it pretty PG.
Yeah,
we're high school.
Yeah.
They don't push it at all.
Exactly.
Blake also tried to pretend that she didn't have a signed nudity writer because Justin didn't provide one, when in fact Justin and his team provided a nudity writer at the beginning of filming, and Blake refused to sign it along with her contract for being on the movie, period. She was more concerned with her payment being put in escrow than she was actually signing the documents she was required to sign. So the only reason Blake did not have a signed nudity writer by the time the writer strike came along, when she cooked up this ridiculous document, is because she refused to sign it. Plus, she filmed 0 intimate scenes before the strike began, when she was so-called sexually harassed. No intimate scenes with Blake had been filmed, so it's just all a lie and a gross insinuation in those 17 demands. She then tried to make Isabela's scenes for young Lilly pursuant to Blake's nudity writer, which was a huge overstep and very wrong, because Isabela had already filmed her intimate scenes pursuant to her own signed nudity writer. So Blake was just overstepping and demanding ridiculous things. And here's what the actor who played young Atlas had to say about Justin before Blake's lies. I love his energy, man. He brings so much passion and he cares so much about it that you can't help but feed off of that. And even through all the turbulence of these scenes that we're doing, it's just that energy and that passion that's really driving everything. And also, he's very creatively open. If things aren't feeling right or we need to change little things, super flexible, which really makes all the actors more comfortable together, I think. It's also just hilarious to me the way Ryan and Blake were so obviously doing all they could to buy these people's loyalty, like telling Isabela that she was cast by Taylor Swift, which was a lie.
So we did a TikTok search. We looked through thousands of women and tapes, and we had lookalikes submit who had never acted before, and then I found Isabela. Our wonderful casting director sent me her tape, and if you look at her at the right angle, it's a spitting image. More than just the resemblance, she is a phenomenal actress, and this was her first film.
She told me Taylor Swift helped her get the role, signed off on her audition.
I was casting, and I had actually brought in and showed her casting tape to Blake and Taylor, and they were both like, yes, her.
And also inviting them to the premiere of Deadpool and staging pap walks with them after a night out to just create an illusion that they're so close and chummy and that Justin is the isolated, problematic one. It's so freaking manipulative. And I do wonder if these actors are now looking back on these moments and realizing they were being completely taken by master manipulators in Blake and Ryan during these moments. These were not moments of genuine friendship or closeness. They were using them to create an image to further further help their extortion scheme. And then there's the dastardly Brandon Sklenar, who turned against Justin so fast he probably got whiplash. I have no sympathy for him. And he actively promoted the libelous New York Times article for Blake, and who must now feel like a total imbecile for doing so, because that article and Blake's entire case have been destroyed with facts and evidence and the full timeline of events that shows she was not sexually harassed, but she did hijack this movie through extortion and threats. And there's no wonder why Brandon turned on Justin, even for someone he clearly finds as insufferable as Blake. Look at his face here. He cannot stand the sound of her voice, but he's putting up with it because it's going to help his career. So Brandon Sklenar has no interest in the truth prevailing. He's happy to bolster whatever narrative will keep him employed and paid, even if it means backstabbing a man who gave him a significant role in a hugely successful movie. This is what Brandon Sklenar had to say about Justin before Blake fed him her lies.
He was great. I mean, he did a really good job at balancing being both, you know, a lead actor in the film and then being a director and a producer. And honestly, the entire crew that he assembled was just so incredible. I mean, everybody in this film was just on the top of their game. It was a really pleasant environment to work in. I never felt like I was on a set.
And here's what he said in an interview on set. So again, before Blake's lies. And I had a phone call with Justin Baldoni, our director. And over the course of that phone call, it became very clear to me what this was and what it meant to the people who have read this book, men and women alike, but largely women all over the world, and how much it helped them. And then also Justin's passion and his intention behind making this film, I think was one of the biggest things for me, because he does have such a strong intention and you can feel it when you speak to him about it. And I think when creating anything, I mean, that's kind of paramount in making something halfway decent. And his intention is very strong, and he hires people who also have a very clear intention. I think collectively, the chances of making something that is impactful, hopefully as marginally as impactful as the book has been, would be a massive success. And I think that was a real eye-opener to me, just hearing him firsthand and what it meant to him and what it's meant to so many people. So this is proof positive in 2023 that Justin's entire purpose for doing this movie was its message to help domestic violence survivors and possibly people currently experiencing domestic violence. It was never a part of his plot to smear Blake to only focus on the survivors of DV. It was his plan all along, and he was the only truthful, consistent one that showed integrity throughout this entire process. Not Blake, not Colleen Hoover, who completely flipped her idea about how she wanted this movie represented from the email she wrote to Justin about her not wanting it to come off as a rom-com, and then how she chose to promote the movie with the idiot Blake. Two completely different approaches, and she went from one extreme to the next just to appease a massive celebrity. Justin had integrity, and he stayed true to his message and his mission from day one to the last. And people can see that, and everyone admitted that long before Blake came along and accused him of anything. Brandon Sklenar continued, "It's translated just in terms of the vibe on set. It's a really, really pleasant set to be on, and it comes from the top. Jamie Heath, our producer, he's such a lovely guy, and Justin is so warm, and there's no tension. It's just a very open, safe environment, as you'd hope it would be, given the subject matter of the film and the message we're trying to get across. But it isn't always the case on sets. It could be a really tense environment, and that's something that kills art, and sometimes it fuels it. But I think in this case, it's essential for making what we're doing." I'm grateful to him for that, because it's truly been a really, really pleasant experience being on set. It doesn't get any clearer than that Justin ran a top-notch, very safe set and made everyone feel welcome and comfortable on set. And then he says of Jamie and then the producers, both have been great. I mean, like I said earlier, it's been a really truly positive work environment, just really kind people. And I think it just comes from the top. I mean, we've had some bumps along the way, as you do in films, and scheduling things and unexpected shifts and location changes and schedules, and everyone just, I've yet to see someone throwing a clipboard and yelling or anything. And this right here is what Brandon said to defend Blake when she started getting backlash in August 2024 for her tone-deaf, exploitative, opportunistic marketing of of this film. And this is what Brandon posted to his stories after the libelous article came out in the New York Times. So he was doing his job as one of Blake's little flying monkeys so that he could be rewarded later. He put a caption, "For the love of God, read this." Brandon Sklenar, how about for the love of God, you shut the fuck up. He is reportedly repped by WME, who is a massive talent agency in Hollywood, and he signed with them in September 2023 during the production of It Ends With Us while they were on break. So basically this would have been while Blake was cooking up her scheme over the writer's strike after she was denied the dailies when she was deciding she really wanted to take this film over whenever filming began again. So this is right during that crucial time that he was brought on as a talent by WME. This is notably the same talent agency that reps Blake and Ryan Reynolds, and who also reps Justin, but who dumped him the second Blake's libelous New York Times article dropped. That means WME had zero interest in due process. They are just as bad as the rest of these people who betrayed Justin to remain in the good graces of Blake and Ryan. They dumped this man before any real proof was provided of a smear campaign and before Justin had his day in court. Not only that, but WME was reportedly pressured by Blake and Ryan to dump Justin as a client, and they did. But they somehow expect people to believe their exclamations that they weren't pressured by Blake and Ryan to dump Justin when they literally dumped him only after Blake's side of the story was publicized.
Baldoni's former talent agency, WME, dropped the Jane the Virgin star on December 21st, the same day it came to light that Lively sued him for sexual harassment and accused him of running a smear campaign against her. The talent agency executive allegedly responsible for firing Justin Baldoni from its roster is speaking out. Emanuel shared that he has known Lively and Reynolds for over a decade and called them really incredible people. They've never had any bad mojo out there or treated people badly, Emanuel said. He added, if all that Lively's lawsuit alleges, including Baldoni sexually harassing her on set and fueling a retaliatory public smear campaign to destroy her reputation, is true, then those involved are really bad people. Speaking of Lively and Reynolds, he said, these are good people who have been in the business for decades, have never had any bad press about them, and all the people they've worked with like them.
What a low IQ, shockingly amoral, garbage take. This is the most bad faith take I've heard yet in this case. Is this really the spokesperson and the brains behind a company of this magnitude? Is this really the level of professionalism with which this agency operates? Speaking haphazardly and making decisions on a case from a place of admitted ignorance, blatant bias, and feelings of personal loyalty or disdain, or just him mentioning what other people think. The sheer number of logical fallacies contained in this single interview are mind-boggling. They're making my fucking eye twitch. Appeal to popularity. Ryan and Blake are innocent because everyone he knows and everyone they've worked with and even the media likes them. And these people, of course, can't possibly be wrong. Appeal to emotion. He's personally a ride or die. Basically, he knows the public can relate to strong feelings of personal loyalty, although in reality, these feelings are utterly irrelevant when determining whether or not sexual harassment or a smear campaign took place. Appeal to authority. He believes Blake and Ryan over Justin because he has worked with them for many years and they are the bigger stars and they have a bigger status in Hollywood. And for him, that's the totality of what would constitute a feasible argument on this matter. Appeal to ignorance. Believing Justin is guilty without evidence simply because he is accused. Hasty generalization, believing Justin is guilty when only Blake's side of the argument was presented, and sans an investigation into her claims, or even simply hearing Justin's side of things. And we know there was no investigation because they fired him literally hours after the New York Times article came out. False dilemma, special pleading, circular reasoning, the list goes on and on. This guy is a fucking imbecile. I'm ride or die? What? Something tells me this doesn't exactly pass the legal threshold of fair business practices because it violates every conceivable protection against fraud, conflicts of interest, deceptive practices. Choosing Blake over Justin for the simple fact that he has known her a few years longer and that she and her husband are more influential, and because everyone likes them, is certifiable. This man is a lunatic, and these comments and his firing Justin for the reasons he has listed have to be a breach of the contract with Justin, right? It can even be seen as sexist discrimination against men to demonize them without proof just because they're male and you feel that it's the safer thing for you and your company to do in a post-Me Too society. That is gutless. Firing a man over unproven allegations long before he had the opportunity to defend himself, and standing by that moronic decision by continuing to publicly vilify him with zero proof while also ignoring evidence of the extortion this evil sadistic couple subjected him to, including a video of Miss Shitforbrains explaining in painstaking detail how she habitually hijacks films, is madness. I hope Justin bankrupts every single last one of these pieces of shit. And they also were involved in helping to pressure Justin and Wayfair Studios to put out a statement written by Blake and Ryan. So that shows you how much they are aligned with Blake and Ryan and how much they were doing their bidding. So I don't believe for a second that WME was not pressured by Blake and Ryan to dump Justin. And it was also reported that Ryan Reynolds had called Justin a sexual predator to this agency at the premiere of Deadpool, I believe, or at the premiere of It Ends With Us. I can't remember which. So that is just disgusting language that in no way reflects anything that he was accused of. At best, what he was accused of are moments where he could have been a little more mindful or careful, but at the same time, he was entrapped in a lot of those situations. Calling him a sexual predator is completely out of line. And what makes WME's decision to side with Blake and Ryan so much more obvious and egregious is that one of their agents conveyed to Justin and his company, Wayfair Studios, that Ryan and Blake were known for bullying and threatening their way through Hollywood, and that no one ever successfully stands up to their threats. They also admitted that Blake's downfall was essentially self-inflicted, which everyone can see. And they did this when speaking to Justin behind the scenes. But for some reason, they still pushed for Justin and crew to capitulate to this evil, bullying couple and presented them with that laughable statement that Blake and Ryan prepared for Wayfarer and their team to publicly release. So it wasn't enough for Justin and crew to accept responsibility for Blake's own self-inflicted downfall. They were so sadistic, they wanted to pin the acknowledgement and the apology for Justin and made certain to use language that was as self-flagellating, demeaning, and emasculating as possible. This is so psychotic and evil. I cannot believe it. But beyond the WME debacle and their craven submission to a demented, power-tripping couple who had already extorted a man out of his hard-earned production with false sexual harassment allegations, Brandon Sklenar is repped by this reprehensible company as well now. It was uncovered by internet sleuths that Brandon Sklenar is set to star in a movie called The Housemaid with the freaking director of A Simple Favor 2 called Paul Feig or Feig, whatever his last name is. His casting was announced in October 2024, right around the time Blake's libelous New York Times article is suspected to have been drafted at the earliest based on metadata of the website. And this is around the time she was basically rallying support and needed credibility lent to this bullshit story by the cast and by other people involved. Because remember, it was always Blake's plan to present the cast as hating Justin and having found problems with him in the set environment, which is simply not true. It is totally contradicted by the cast's own words in interviews before she got to them with her lies. Brandon Sklenar seems to have been rewarded for publicly taking Blake's side and lending credibility to the lies and distortions in this article. Paul Feig, or Fig, the director of A Simple Favor 2, Blake's new straight-to-streaming movie, he has gone on the record twice now defending Blake, even after the facts of Blake's extortion were brought to light, which also makes him an asshole and a bad faith actor, knowingly colluding with a proven extortionist to clear her name in the public eye just because he wants you to watch his movie. Hollywood is demonic and full of human excrement. So let me see if I got this straight. Brandon Sklenar is set to be starring in a movie with this greasy, underhanded director who has his head up Blake's ass and won't stop singing her praises because she's starring in his new movie. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a coincidence at all to me. It's also worth noting that Brandon Sklenar will also be starring alongside a man named Morrone or Michele Morrone, who also publicly came out in support of Blake in one of the more recent pictures of her, despite her proven extortion and lies. Also, we have this little bullshit gem here, him going on the record to support her, and you guessed it, sharing the libelous New York Times article. It's beyond clear a memo went out to Blake's little flying monkeys, which included telling them to link to that now debunked New York Times article full of her lies and distortions, and they were all rewarded for their public displays of solidarity.
So it's usually not my thing to make those kind of videos, but I think it's time to stand up for a person that I really love. And this person is Blake Lively. I personally met Blake during A Simple Favor 2. We shot this incredible film together, and I felt something was wrong, and I felt the pain. Blake was in pain. And I'm really tired to see those kind of cruel and bad comment about her without knowing the situation. So that's why I want to link right here an article, the New York Times, just to make you understand before commenting what happened. That's all I ask, and that's all I want you to do, all right? Blake, I love you so much. Keep it up, and we're gonna see each other very, very soon. Love you.
And now we all know why. He worked with her on A Simple Favor right alongside Paul. And now he's gonna be starring with Justin in this new movie, which is directed by Paul as well. This all feels so underhanded and incestuous and wrong. Everyone who turned on Justin seems to be intimately connected with Blake and her husband on some level. Also, let's just break down exactly what he is vaguely alluding to in this video. He is being dishonest, first of all. That much is obvious. And when being dishonest on a subject you are truly clueless about, it's best to refrain from providing specifics and ensure you say just enough with just the right gravity so that you sound convincing, but also so that you can maintain plausible deniability. It's so clear he's trying to retroactively allude to her having been noticeably upset on the set of A Simple Favor 2 due to the abuse and harassment she faced on the set of It Ends With Us, when in reality, A Simple Favor 2 was filmed from April to May 2024, and there is text message proof that during this time, Blake was completely preoccupied with extorting the living hell out of Justin in his production. So if Michele Morrone sensed anything off about Blake, it was her inhuman ability to ruthlessly rob a man of his life's work, make him cower to her under the threat of publicizing fake Me Too allegations against him if he didn't fall in line, and also the mental gymnastics she was going to have to engage in to defend herself if her horrendous on-set behavior and carefully crafted web of lies was ever exposed to the public. She got in over her head in extorting this production and didn't realize it would go this far, and was probably beginning to panic the lid would blow on this whole thing eventually. That's what Michele Morrone noticed about Blake during that time. And during the time Michele claims Blake was in pain, there are literal text messages and emails of her threatening her way through the entire editing process, then taking over the edit altogether, then firing the editor, firing the composer, then threatening her way through the marketing of the film, removing the director and the lead actor from the poster of the film, removing his A Film by credit, and strong-arming her way into a producer credit and a prestigious PGA mark. So sure, she was clearly in pain. Clearly a traumatized person who was battling pain would have the time to do all of that. The idea that Blake was the one in pain here and not the editor and composer she fired, or the female ADs she had fired, or Justin and Jamie, whose movie she stole, is ludicrous on its face. It's the ridiculous lie of a man whose palm was greased in exchange for a superficial message of support for Blake and sharing her article, and which resulted in him starring in a movie with the same director, currently publicly defending Blake at all costs so that his upcoming movie won't be a flop due to his lead actress being utterly disgraced by her behavior, as she deserves. She would then go on to promote It Ends With Us without a care in the world, with zero visible pain, and while completely trivializing the heavy central themes of the film, to instead promote her hair care line, her booze line, and angle for a position as the director for the sequel by telling everyone how much work she did behind the scenes. The only person who was in pain during this time was Justin Baldoni and his people, of course, because he was being extorted to death. We have proof of that in countless text messages, and proof of that in photos of him at the freaking hospital, and proof of that in an emotional podcast he filmed before these lawsuits were ever set into motion. He has been the one wronged and harmed here, not the charlatan Blake Lively.
This morning I sent a text message to my best friend Jamie and the president of my company, Tara. And I told them that I wasn't in the best place. I told them that I was exhausted, that I haven't given myself time to recover or time to heal. I had a intense year, a lot of material success, and a lot of emotional stress. It's very hard on me and my family. I take on more than I can chew. I overcommit. I say yes to things out of fear. I people please.
Even now,
absolutely.
Also, just as an aside, it's important to note that Justin Baldoni's pathetic female podcast host, Liz Plank, who prematurely jumped ship after the New York Times article dropped, also has close ties to Ryan Reynolds, and this is something that internet sleuths also uncovered. And she's had these ties since at least 2019.
Do you guys know who this is? Does she look familiar? Her name is Liz Plank. Yes, Liz Plank, who was Justin Baldoni's co-host on their podcast, Man Enough. The same Liz Plank that jumped ship just a few days after Blake Lively filed her legal complaint against Justin Baldoni. Not only did Liz Plank post this photo in 2019 thanking Ryan freaking Reynolds, he also posted her book to his story. She also was unwelcome to Wrexham.
Ryan and I had questions, so we went to the only logical place for answers. A woman.
Hi, my name is Liz Plank. In the first episode of the show, Rob said that he went to Ryan for movie money.
Apparently, Welcome to Wrexham is a TV series that took an inside look at the unusual beginnings and dynamics of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's football friendship. Ryan Reynolds is the self-co-chairman of the series. Liz had posted this on October 17th, 2022. Caption, thanks to Ryan and Rob for letting me psychoanalyze them and talk about butts on TV. Want to know who else visited Wrexham on Ryan Reynolds' dime? Brandon Sklenar, aka Timu Thor. And this was December 14th, 2024. And allegedly, Blake Lively had invited Brandon and Isabela to book Bonanza and paid for their trip to Texas to attend.
So now we know where her loyalties lied and why. So it means absolutely nothing that she jumped ship. That's not a commentary on Justin Baldoni's character, it's a commentary on her own. It's also critical to note here, despite being there from the beginning and having behind the scenes insight as to what was actually going on set and seeing how superficial and distorted Blake's complaints were, Sony still supported her over Justin on many occasions. Despite them being a party to Blake's outright extortion and continuous threats, Sony continued to acquiesce her demands and also demanded for Justin and Wayfarer to do the same, even at one point reprimanding Jamie Heath and accusing him and his team of not wanting to, quote, play ball when it came to capitulating to another one of Blake's requests to control the edit of the movie, since she was threatening to not promote the movie and then even insinuated that she would not go ahead and call Taylor Swift to ask for permission to use her song unless they gave her what she wanted in the edit. Sony not only allowed Blake's extortion to continue, but they also scolded Jamie Heath and Justin for not continuing to take her abuse. They subjected Justin and Jamie and Wayfarer to Blake's extortion. They also came out on the record and reiterated their support for Blake, despite knowing how much she lied and how much she threatened everyone to get her way on set after the libelous New York Times article dropped, because it's all about PR for everyone. Whoever has the most PR momentum is the one they're going to go with, regardless of the truth. So why Sony isn't being sued for aiding and abetting Blake and Ryan's extortion of this production is a mystery to me. Then of course, we have the joke of an institution, the New York Times, who aided and abetted Blake's lies and distortions to defame Justin. So I'll just play a clip from my first video on them to explain the New York Times' shady endeavors to help ruin Justin and his publicist. And it's also important to know that they cherry-picked these text messages right along with Blake's team to present a certain false narrative and ignored the text messages that directly contradicted their false narrative, which would have been exculpatory evidence. A common thread among Blake supporters is that they all have obvious agendas and close interconnected ties, and they are all devoid of integrity. Because regardless of how you feel about Blake's sexual harassment allegations, which were all lies and distortions, anyone purporting to defend or support her still has the issue of her proven extortion extortion, lies, and threats to reconcile. And I don't see any Blake Lively defenders doing the work of addressing these undeniable facts. She made many threats to get her way. The Khaleesi tweet was the most explicit one we have written out, but we also have the video of her that I showed at the beginning of the video, basically laying out her scheme to take over movies by way of threats and deception. We also have her protections to return to work document, which is also proof of extortion because she would not return to work without it being signed in its original form. There could be no discussion, investigations, or negotiations regarding the 17 demands she listed. When Sony and Wayfair Studios tried to correct the list for factual accuracy so that it wouldn't appear that they were agreeing to Blake's false insinuations that unseemly things had taken place on set that were against industry standards, Blake's team would not allow them to negotiate, alter, or correct the list, and their refusal is in writing in an email, so it cannot be denied. That is extortion. And the notion that this document is proof of Justin and his team admitting guilt is also fundamentally flawed, since from the very beginning they factually disagreed with the document and its distortion of the underlying facts and its many insinuations. They noted as much in writing, which Blake revealed in her original CRD complaint, their disagreement with her account of the events, and they even tried to negotiate the list at one point with the help of Sony, who was also confused by this list with email proof, but Blake's team would not allow them to negotiate. There is email proof of them refusing to allow them to negotiate or correct any of the provisions. The presentation of this document in November 2023 was a critical part of Blake's overarching scheme to extort Justin out of his intellectual property and his rights as a director in this production, with the threat of destroying his career, reputation, and the movie, and bankrupt him because of the millions of dollars he would lose. The presentation of this document was a hostile event. Blake and her team making this document and the events it purported to factually relay, non-negotiable, showed they were not concerned with actually investigating the underlying incidents or getting down to the truth of the matter. So this document was irrefutably not signed free of coercion. By no means does it admit guilt because it was not signed without intimidation and threats. Typically, when you sign anything, the court takes into account whether it was signed voluntarily and free of coercion, which Justin and his team can easily prove this document was not. So even the very act of her waving around this signed document as proof of her sexual harassment presents issues. So anyone purporting to support Blake has to reconcile all of her proven lies and threats and extortionary tactics, and no one defending her has bothered to do so, including Brandon Sklenar, other members of the cast, WME, or the smarmy director of A Simple Favor 2, or any of the idiot fake feminist fans who claim to be defending her. I can't wait to see if more information is released regarding Taylor Swift's role in all of this. Jenny Slate is also rumored to be a witness in Blake's lies and deceptions and was allegedly supposed to be added to an amended complaint that was supposed to drop last Friday. That didn't happen. However, Jenny did seem to form an alliance with Blake on set and was really chummy with her in interviews, and there are even rumors that they were behaving kind of cliquey on set, and it was alleged in Blake's complaint that Justin may have perceived her and another co-star as colluding against him. That is most likely Jenny Slate, but this has not been confirmed. However, if Jenny Slate does come forward in support of Blake's lies and distortions about the set culture or Justin's behavior, it will be quite interesting to watch it all unfold, honestly, because Jenny Slate is a detestable human being. She is just as awful as Blake Lively is, and might even be worse. But sure, let's use Jenny Slate as a character witness in this case, because she has always been known for her moral clarity, her delicate sensibilities, and her wonderfully articulate manner of speaking. Ah, such eloquence. Please tell me, did I miss anything? And any other shady characters who publicly supported Blake's lies, whether before or after her extortion scheme was exposed? That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.